Hi, my name is Jason Grow, and this is my game, BioTerror. BioTerror is a strategy simulation game written in 2011 for a 1977 computer called the Commodore PET 2001. The PET computer only had 8K of memory um, and didn't have any real graphics capabilities except for characters on the keyboard. So, the scenario is the United States is under a biological attack, and you have to manage resource units to quarantine cities, research a cure, and eradicate infections, as the title says. So let's get started. This simulation is actually running on a PET emulator. I do have a PET 2001, and the initial game development began on that keyboard, that little chiclet keyboard. And my power supply, or rather my transformer, burned out in that. I had to finish it on an emulator. And I think I was kind of secretly glad for that for the moment, because hardcore coding on that chiclet keyboard is a pretty difficult thing to do. So the game starts out, you set your initial difficulty, levels 1 through 13. That basically means how many cities are infected when the game begins. So the initial view is this strategic map that shows all of the cities and the travel ways, in other words, these connections between the cities. And you see the numbers are highlighted, 6, 12, 10, and 7. Those are the 4 cities randomly selected by the simulation to be infected when the game began. So here we are, day 1. At the very top of the screen you'll see RUs, 10,000. Those are resource units. Think of it like money. I have a research level of 1, which I can upgrade, which will give me more resource units allocated every day. And then the day of the simulation, since this is essentially a turn-based strategy game. So on the left-hand side it says cured, infected, quarantined. That shows you the legend for the map and the symbols that represent the cities. So I see that City 7, that's Miami, that city is infected. City 10, I'm pretty sure that's Philadelphia. And San Francisco and San Diego on the west coast. So east and west coast are infected. So I would try to surround these cities with quarantines to prevent an outbreak. So you issue commands in this game just in plain English. For example, I can quarantine Miami, and it will quarantine City 7. And you'll see how the map updates. I can quarantine City 10, and I can actually type in the number 10 also, because I don't remember the name of that city. Okay, Philadelphia quarantined. You'll see that it costs money every day to quarantine a city. So as every day progresses, my available resource units would decrease. But fortunately, I get resource units allocated daily just as part of the simulation. So every day I get resources allocated, like 5,000 per day. It's a factor based on the research level. So if I upgrade my research level, I'll have more resource units per day to manage the infections. Now, what I really like about this game is that you don't just quarantine infections, you actually have to research the cure, which is a puzzle-solving mechanic. And when you locate the cure, then you can give that cure to the cities to remove the infection. So there's one way to win, and that's all of the cities are uninfected. There's one way to lose, and that's when every city becomes infected. So if you can clear the infections, you win the simulation. Okay? So let's see. I'm going to show you how to research. Actually, let me show you the report page first. I'm going to go back to the strategic map. Alright, so this page shows the cities and their numbers. So City 15 is Washington, D.C. on the other map. City 10 is Philadelphia. Shows their starting population and current population, and expressed as an infection percent. The starting populations are based on my best estimates from 1977 populations. So I actually built the simulation around the population centers from 1977. Okay, but really all the action happens on the map page. And I'll go back to the map page because I can use this to plan my quarantines. Okay, so you need to research a cure. Now, my research level is 1, which means that I can perform 1 research attempt per day. If I upgrade my research level to 2, then I could perform 2 research attempts per day. So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to do research, and I'm going to type in some letters. These are the letters that I'm guessing that are part of the cure code. Okay, so if you'll notice on the other side, this area under cure code was updated with the letters that I typed in, and symbols next to each of those letters correspond to a clue for that letter. So for example, I typed in the letter A, it's displayed as an X next to it. That means A is not part of the code, B is not part of the code, C is part of the code. It has that round circle on it. And the rest of the letters are not part of the code. So I know that the letter C is part of my code. So I'm going to record that on a piece of paper because it's 1977. And that's what I did in 1977. I wrote on paper. Okay, so I record C. What I do know about C is that it does not belong in the 3rd position. If it belonged in the 3rd position, that symbol would actually be a heart. Okay, so let's try to research again. Okay, I'm just going to go up the sequence of letters to try and research the cure. And it tells me that my research is exhausted for the day. That I should upgrade my research level for more daily attempts to find a cure. Okay, so I'm going to upgrade my research level. So I type upgrade research. Now I can issue these orders at any time. I don't have to wait for the message to show up to tell me to upgrade. Once you learn how to play the game, then you'll issue these commands rather quickly. You'll notice the message that it tells me I need 18,000 resource units to upgrade. So I'm just going to have to go to a new day. I type in new day. So I need to go to a new day in order to conduct research. So the game is forcing me along the calendar. Well, when I go to a new day, there's always a risk of outbreak. And on this day, there was no outbreak. So that's good. My quarantines held at 10 and 7, and there was no risk of outbreak on 6 and 12. Well, here's what I can say about quarantines and outbreaks. Over time, the infected population increases, which also increases the chance of an outbreak. So, if I have a high infection rate over here on City 6, that increases the chances that it could outbreak to City 13 or to City 4. Okay? Now, over here I've got 10 quarantined, which minimizes its risk of outbreaking to Cities 9 and every other city connected. It would also help if I wanted to quarantine City 9. That would also reduce its risk of being infected by City 10. Now, quarantines aren't perfect. A real-life quarantine would be less effective over time. It would cost a lot of money to maintain. The citizens behind the quarantine would be more likely to riot after 30 days of quarantine than after 1 day of quarantine. And as the quarantine goes on, the chances of an outbreak increase because of 2 factors. 1, the quarantine's less effective over time, and 2, the infected population increases because we don't have a cure. So that's the main strategy of the game. Manage your resources to plan effective quarantines that minimize the risk of infections spreading while researching the cure. If you can do all of that, you can win the simulation. Okay, so I'm on day 2. I know I should be able to research another cure. So I'm going to add some more letters to the sequence. Now I've already written down the letter C. I throw some more letters at the sequence, and I also see that the letter H is part of the cure, so I'm writing that down, and the letter N is part of the cure. I'm writing that down. So what do I know? My letters are so far H, C, and N, and the circles indicate that the letter H is not in the correct position and the letter N is not in the correct position. Well, that's still useful information, because what I do know is they don't belong in position 1 and 7. If they did, that symbol would be a heart. And those hearts will show up in a little bit. Now my resource units are 15,000. I still can't upgrade. So I can either quarantine another city, or I can just go to a new day. And I think I'm going to go to a new day. And okay, good. Day 3 and no outbreaks have occurred yet. City 6 and 12, if I look at the report, I can look at that infected population percentage, and I know from my experience of playing my own game, the infected population is pretty high, almost 3% for Miami, look at that. But Philadelphia, San Diego, there we go, and Los Angeles are all over 2%. That tells me that I'm really getting close to an outbreak. So after a few days, the chances of an outbreak occurring are pretty high. So I'll go back to my map, check it out, and for the game, I'm going to skip the quarantines this and just do my research. And I'm just going to move up the sequence of letters. You can see I can type in more than it accepts. It just truncates it. Though I'm lucky. I see that Q is part of the cure, but it doesn't belong in position 3, but it's part of the cure. And then also T and U are part of the cure. So the letters I have are H, C, Q, T, U, and N. That's 6 letters of the 7-letter cure, so I have to keep researching. Okay, I'm going to tell it to research again. V, W, X, Y, Z, and then up to the numbers. Alright, but I know my research is exhausted. Okay? So, I have enough resource units to do this. I'm going to upgrade my research. So when I do, you'll see my research level increases and my resource units goes way down. Now, my research will produce 10,000 resource units per day. My next upgrade is 57,000. So if I do no quarantining, it's going to take me about a week in order to upgrade again. But since I did upgrade, my level is 2, I can conduct research again today, my second time. So this time I expect to find some other letters of the cure. Z. Oh, cool. So check out the letter Z. See how it's a heart? That means that that is the position for letter Z. Now I also know the rest of the letters. I know H, C, Q, T, U, and N. So I can start conducting research in which I now put those letters in their correct positions. Okay, now I've researched twice already today. My research level is 2. I can't conduct any more research. So I'm also not going to quarantine anything because I want to show you what happens. So I'll just go to new day. Aha, outbreak risk. So we track some infections, and I see that cities 12, 11, and 6 are now infected. I can go back to the report, and I can look at those. And I can see that City 11 was a brand new infection. I don't know who it got infected by, but that's okay. Okay, I'm on day 4. My research level is 2. That means I can make 2 attempts to cure, to find the cure code today. So I'm going to do my research. And I'm going to start typing in things. Now I know the H isn't part of the first, so I won't type that. So here's what I'm going to try. Q, C, H, T, Z, because that's where Z belongs. N, U. No, I want to go the Q on the end and start with the N. We'll see what it gives me. Okay, now you see the cure code. I've typed in letters that are part of the cure code, but the only one in the correct place is the letter Z. So I'm going to make a note of those research results. That's really what it is. We're doing research for the cure. And I'm going to type in those letters, or write them down on a piece of paper, because I know where they don't belong. So I'm writing down H, C, N, and T, Z, N, and Q. But I can research again today. So I'm going to change the order. since I'm deducing what the code is going to be, and maybe it starts with a C. HN QZ. I'm missing one letter. Let's see. T doesn't belong there. So you're going to watch me try and figure out the code. So right now I'm looking at my paper, figuring out where letters don't belong. So I know my first letter can't be an H or an N. My second letter can't be a C. My third letter can't be C, Q, or H. My fourth letter can't be a T. Fifth letter has to be Z. Sixth letter cannot be T or N. But it might be a U. And let's see, finally, N. Nope, because I know that last letter is not an N. So the last letter might be a C. Q. N. C. And that Q is maybe DH. Okay, so that's my guess. Oh, and look at all the hearts that showed up. So I did a pretty good job deducing what those codes were. I know that was boring to watch, but it's more fun to do. Q, N, T. And I know the next character is not an H, that's a Z. The next character is not a U, the last is a C. Okay, well, one more research attempt and I will have the cure found. But you'll see, I don't think I can conduct research. I know a lot of you super geniuses watched me work that code out. That was a mental anguish for me for a moment, but I know a lot of you can look at that kind of stuff and instantly see what the pattern of numbers or letters would be. So I'm going to research the cure, which I believe is Q, N, T, U, H, Z. Q, N, T, U, Z, H, C. Q, N, T, U, Z, H, C. Okay, that's what I believe the cure to be. But darn it, I'm out of research, so I have to go to a new day. Now, I will tell you that if you pick a higher difficulty level, the game does become very challenging. Okay, another day, lucky me, no outbreaks, so I can type in research and I can type in my cure, QNT UZHC. And cure found. My research level is upgraded. That's my bonus. Doesn't do much for helping find the cure, but it does give me more resource units available every day. And what are those important for? They're important for finding the cure. So here's what I'll do. Since I found the cure, I'm going to cure City 10. And that city is cured. The quarantine was lifted. There's no reason to quarantine a cured city. Cure City 7. I'm probably going to run out of resource units and can't cure everything, but we'll see. I'm going to cure 11. I'm going to cure 12. And I'm going to cure 6. Not enough resource units to cure Los Angeles. Okay, so I have to go to a new day. Oops. New day. And luckily, no outbreak on City 6. I finally have enough money to cure City 6, which is San Francisco. Yep, there we go. Simulation complete. Infection eradicated. So that was not too shabby. Pretty easy one. I'll rerun the game and I'll select a high difficulty level of, say, 10. Takes longer to plot because it has to randomly pick 10 cities, and you see the infections are everywhere. And it's hard to manage a quarantine because everything is surrounded at this level. Also, the infections are more aggressive, so the initial population that's infected is higher. 324,000 dead if you read that on the map. The cure code's longer. That's much more complicated to solve. So the infections spread faster because they're more aggressive. If I go back to the map, and I can also go directly to a day. I'll type in day 3. We'll see what happens. Now there's a lot of screen flickering and flashing here because I'm really not an efficient coder. And I've got so many ideas for this game. For example, if you cure cities but don't have enough money to go any further, perhaps, at some point the code could mutate and cities that were cured may be reinfected. I had lots and lots of ideas like that. I could not cram everything into the game. So you see, it rolled ahead. There's only one city left uninfected, and that's 13. If I look at the report, I had other reports also that showed what everything would cost, how much the quarantine cost was. I had more commands built into the system where you actually had to send research teams to each city in order to gain attempts at the cure. And those research teams cost money per day, but also affected the strength of a quarantine. But I was really limited by the memory on this machine, and I found out that I had to remove a lot of things that I thought would have been really cool to put in. So here's my infected population percent is as high as 6.1 in Atlanta. Oh yeah, I also had travel costs based on distances of each city from Atlanta, which is where the Center for Disease Control is located. So that was your sort of base of operations. Alright, so let's go back to the map. I'm going to go to New Day and see if I can kill off that last city. Somebody's in trouble. Wow. How that city survived, I do not know. Just out of curiosity. Wow. San Francisco. Alright, I'll go back to the map. And I'll go New Day. See if I can kill the city so you can see how the simulation ends if you lose. Simulation complete. All cities infected. So there it is. Game over. I lost. I was not able to find the cure or distribute the cure. So that's basically the game. This game is over. 2011 game written for a 1977 computer. If I get enough interest in the game, I'll put the D64 files out there so you guys can run it in an emulator. And if I get enough support, maybe I'll develop this game further in other platforms, maybe something more modern. Alright, my name's Jason Grow. This was my game, BioTerror. And I hope you found it enjoyable, and I hope you're interested. Thank you.